Aerodactyl, Kabutops, and Omastar, the first 3 fossil Pokemon ever introduced. We're told they all went extinct a long time ago and can only be revived by special machines. But what if they never really went extinct? What if they just changed over time? Evolved, if you will, into different modern-day Pokemon that we also know and love. Hey brother. Guys, today I'm going to uncover the fossil family tree that Game Freak and Pokemon have been hiding in plain sight for the last 2 decades. Now, possibly you've heard about the whole Kabutops Genesect theory before, and don't worry, we will be covering that, but it goes way deeper, and I'm about to blow the lid off of all of it. Because the secret ecosystem and lore that has been built into the games over so much time is wild and fits together perfectly. So forget about Genesect today. Today, I'm going to prove that Kabutops eventually became Scyther, Omastar became Octillery, and Aerodactyl, well, we'll get to Aerodactyl. But before that, we've got a lot to cover, like how Psyduck, of all Pokemon, randomly plays a huge role in all of this.
Sorry.
Honestly, I had a blast researching this one. Let's go. Okay, so I just got back from the Pokemon World Championships in Anaheim, California, which is an absolute blast. I won a tournament, made a lot of friends, bought a lot of stuff, and I'm still on such a Pokemon high that today I couldn't not make a Pokemon video. So let's kick off with my favorite Pokemon of all time and for always, Scyther. I mean, he's got literal blades for hand. How cool is that? And look at his Gen 1 sprite. It's still amazing. Honestly, probably still the best Scyther sprite in any game to date. How could 5th grade me not fall in love with this guy, right? This series starts with Scyther and his iconic blade arms because, unbelievably, he is not the only Gen 1 Pokemon with this trait. There is also the fossil Pokemon, Kabutops. Coincidence?
I think not!
Bernie, I appreciate it, but honestly, you're gonna have to chill because otherwise you're gonna be chiming in every 10 seconds on this video, okay?
Don't Bernie me!
Now, the shared scythes are already pretty incriminating, but they share a lot more in appearance as well. Both body shapes are tall and humanoid with an insect/reptilian flair. Both have the very narrow torso, and you can see where the ridge-like armor on Kabutops' back may have eventually become Scyther's wings. Not to mention, Kabutops' carapace definitely just became Scyther's exoskeleton. But wait, there's more beyond just the physical, because let's also examine the Pokédex. The Ruby and Sapphire entry for Kabutops reads,
Kabutops swam underwater to hunt for its prey in ancient times. The Pokemon was apparently evolving from being a water dweller to living on land, as evident from the beginnings of change in its gills and legs.
It's a pretty interesting use of evolving there, because that's also what they call it in Pokemon, when they power up, change forms, and become bigger and stuff. But in this particular entry, this is a more real world definition of evolution, slowly changing over thousands of years and adapting to your new environment. But it's right there. Kabutops eventually became a land-dwelling creature, and there's just no better fit than Scyther. In fact, both Pokemon also have entries in the Pokédex that highlight their speed.
Scyther is blindingly fast. Its blazing speed enhances the effectiveness of its twin scythes on its forearms. This Pokemon's scythes are so effective they can slice through thick logs in one wicked stroke. Kabutops swims at speeds of roughly 29 knots, quickly closing in on its prey and slashing into them with its scythes to finish them off.
In fact, we can take it another step further with the introduction of the Gen 5 Pokemon, Genesect, who I think you'll agree shares a lot of visual similarities to both Kabutops and Scyther. I mean, it has the domed head shape here of Kabutops and the gaster, is that what this part is called? This part of Scyther? I had to learn a lot of bug words for this video. Now I know more about gasters and thoraxes and abdominal segments than I ever cared to, but it's a gaster. But anyway, the Genesect Pokédex entry reads,
Over 300 million years ago, it was feared as the strongest of hunters. This ancient bug Pokemon was altered by Team Plasma.
Right, so the metal and, the giant gun here are the alterations. But what's under the metal? Well, it's listed as a bug, so I'm thinking we're looking at a Pokemon halfway between Kabutops and Scyther, then coated in armor to get Genesect. Which ties in perfectly with more Scyther lore, because the modern Scyther evolves into Scizor, but only after you attach and then trade while holding a metal coat. So Scyther plus metal coat equals Scizor. Kabutops plus metal and giant laser equals Genesect. Oh, but Jay, Scyther also evolves into Kleavor. Yes, you were correct, it does. And I'm so glad you brought that up because yes, in Legends Arceus, Scyther got a new evolved form, Kleavor, part rock and bug. But it just continues to fuel the theory because Kabutops is a rock water type. So Kleavor just proves that the rock DNA still existed in Scyther the whole time. And it gets even better. I can even tell you why Kabutops went to land in the first place to eventually become Scyther. But first, we have to talk about Kabutops' counterpart, Omastar. Because, I mean, let's face it, if Kabutops became something else, then, like, Omastar must have too, right? And at first, I thought it almost had to be Starmie, because Omastar has that, like, you know, star-shaped face and 10 legs, and Starmie is a star with 10 points. Plus, Starmie's Pokédex is filled with references to space.
At the center of its body is a red core, which sends mysterious radio signals into the night sky. This Pokemon has a geometric body. Because of its body, the locals suspect that it is an alien creature.
And I know that might not sound relevant, but it is because of where you find the Helix fossil, which is at Mount Moon, which is also the home of Clefairy, which is also from space, like, you know, moonstones and all that. So I thought, like, yeah, maybe there's some connective tissue there. And honestly, I think that still could be true, but the Pokédex then in Ultra Moon just names the descendant outright, and it's Octillery.
Its heavy shell is thought to be the reason this Pokemon died out. It's apparently a distant ancestor of Octillery.
And boom, there it is, the smoking gun, definitive proof that these Pokemon evolved into other species over time. In fact, that bit of information also kind of helps explain the odd evolutionary pattern of Remoraid, this tiny fish, into Octillery, this octopus, because like obviously just the blue part of the smaller Ammonite must have left the shell and swam around unprotected, relying on speed rather than defense until it slowly changed into this fish. Plus, you know, Omastar's signature move is Spike Cannon, and Octillery is literally just like an octopus cannon. But I bring up Omastar as well because one of its other entries lists out some of its prey, Shelder.
Apparently, it cracked Shelder's shell with its sharp fangs and sucked out the insides.
Gross. And yet, useful information, because if Omastar was feeding on Shelder, then I have to think Kabutops was as well. And we also know this about Kabutops' prey.
It is thought that this Pokemon came onto land because its prey adapted to life on land.
And I know what you're thinking, Jay, Shelder is not a land Pokemon, and yet it kind of is, because what happens when Shelder latches onto the tail of a Slowpoke? Yeah, it becomes the land-dwelling Slowbro. So what happened is Kabutops followed the Shelder onto land where it continued the hunt. And yes, it probably wasn't great at being on land at first, but you know, Slowbro also not very fast. Turns out, yeah, right there in the name. Slow. But of course, Kabutops adapted and eventually became Scyther. In fact, check this out. In the Sword and Shield games, there is a like DLC area called the Isle of Armor, and it introduces a new regional variant of Slowpoke and Slowbro, which is already pretty cool. But do you know what's even cooler? Is that the Isle of Armor is also where Scyther becomes available for capture. Because yet again, ancient Kabutops would have followed the Shelder onto land, and boom, now Scyther is present in the same area. But what about Kleavor? I also hear you asking, are there Slowpoke present where you can catch Scyther in Legends Arceus? Well, no, but who says any hunter only eats one thing? Like, we know for sure that Scythers hunt Tarantula in the Galar region, it says it in their Pokédex, but those don't exist in other regions, so it's really more about adapting, and that's what this whole video is about, adaptability. But also, let's face it, when you're as fast as Scyther, you probably don't want to deal with like the tough shells of Slowbros and Shelders all the time. But don't you guys worry, I sleuthed out the other prey though. See, in Legends Arceus, Scyther only appears in two areas, the Coronet Highlands and the Obsidian Fieldlands. And there is only one other Pokemon that appears in both of those areas. And yes, it is a water Pokemon that can go on both land and sea that Scyther is obviously hunting. Psyduck, which, hey, if you're a Mythical Kitchen fan, you already know is apparently the tastiest Pokemon there is.
Psyduck, foie gras, foie gras. Yeah, emulsify its fattened liver with its own rendered fat.
And fun fact, like I know those are late game entries, but even back in Gen 1, you can only catch Scyther in the Safari Zone. And guess who else is there? Plus, it gets better because Psyduck evolves into Golduck, names that I feel 100% certain got mixed up on a list somewhere at some time, right? Like the gold one was definitely supposed to be the Golduck, and the one with the Psychic Gem was supposed to be the Psyduck. Right? Doesn't matter. What's important is that Golduck's Pokédex entry reads,
Golduck is the fastest swimmer among all Pokemon. It swims effortlessly, even in rough, stormy seas, and sometimes rescues people from wrecked ships floundering in high seas.
the fastest swimmer among all Pokemon? I mean, geez, why do you think it needed to be so fast? Yeah, because it's an evolutionary arms race with Scyther / Kabutops to evade their ninja speed pursuits. That's why. Oh, and just for fun, guess who else is on the Isle of Armor? Guess, go ahead. I'll let you. One try. Psyduck. Yeah, that's right. It's all there, you guys. It's all there. But what about Aerodactyl? Well, great question, but first we need to give a big thank you to today's sponsor, Raycon, because cool thing about fossil Pokemon is that you can bring them back and battle with them in the present. And this July, guess who's also back and better than ever? It is Raycon's fan favorite Everyday Earbuds Classic, now packing active noise cancellation. And you might want to go ahead and put them in because the issue with Aerodactyl, other than, like the teeth and general viciousness, is its scream. If I may, I think it sounds something like, ah! But with the active noise cancellation tech, no issue. I literally just had my own pair locked and loaded on my flight to Anaheim last weekend. And let me tell you, it was a game changer. I mean, the only thing louder than an Aerodactyl in the sky might be sitting next to one of those giant airplane engines. Or kids, kids on planes can be so loud, but not anymore. And even though it's kind of a long flight, no issue, because these things have got 8 hours of playtime on a 32-hour battery life and audio quality that rivals like big audio brands at half the price. Seriously, not kidding. I had my Raycons in. It was blissfully watching Pokemon World's Championship Sunday with no distractions, just fun, all the way to Virginia. So go to buyraycon.com/SuperCarlin to get 20% off the fan favorite Everyday Earbuds Classic. Right now, Raycon is offering 20% off their Everyday Earbuds Classic by raycon.com/SuperCarlin. Sponsored by Raycon. Link in the description down below. And now let's find out what that screechy Aerodactyl actually turned into. Shall we? So, Omastar survived as Octillery, Kabutops lives on as Scyther, and that brings us to Aerodactyl, the apex predator of the skies. What happened to it? Well, it too never left us. It became the single most popular Pokemon of all time, Charizard. I mean, appearance-wise, it's a match made in heaven. They both have the long horns coming out of their head, the clawed wings and the long tails, the long snout, the sharp teeth. But then let's also look at the Pokédex for Aerodactyl.
In ancient times, it ruled the skies. A widely accepted theory is that it went extinct due to a large meteor impact.
Right, and that meteor is interesting because if it was a meteor that wiped them out, then the resulting fires could be responsible for the change to fire type over time. Plus, it bothers a lot of people, myself included, that Charizard, the winged, airborne, fire-breathing lizard, is not a dragon type. But if he's a descendant of Aerodactyl, then it makes sense because he was never a dragon to begin with. He just dropped the rock typing for fire. But then to cap it all off, Aerodactyl and Charizard are both members of the pretty small pool of Pokemon that can Mega Evolve, which would make sense because of course if Aerodactyl could Mega Evolve, then Charizard could too. And specifically, Charizard Y, I think, looks a lot like the Mega Aerodactyl. But so there you go. We already know it's canon that Omastar turns into Octillery. Kabutops into Scyther just makes sense from the appearance, to the metal coat, to the Genesect comparison, to the hunting grounds, to the fact that the Pokédex says Kabutops migrated to land. And if those two have modern day living counterparts, then Aerodactyl, the king of the ancient sky, must. And there is no greater candidate than Charizard, king of being the most popular frickin' Pokemon ever. See ya. I gotta do the outro. I'm back. Hold on. My question for all of you guys is there's a new Pokemon game, Pokemon ZA, coming out, which will have new megas. Which Pokemon do you hope gets a mega evolution? Obviously, I'm hoping for Kabutops and Omastar because it helps my theory. I guess we may as well throw Octillery in there as well. But then also, I would love to see Fearow, Golduck, and Parasect, of course, because none of them have gotten any love since Gen 1. Come on, Pokemon, you can do it. But otherwise, don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already so don't miss any future Pokemon action from us. If you want to see who Pokemon's least favorite Pokemon actually is, you can check out this video right here. But otherwise, until next time, Ben, I will see you in another life, brother. Aerodactyl, Kabutops, and Omastar. The first three Fossil Pokemon.